Hello, this is Dorie Clark, and I am here with our weekly Newsweek interview show, Better, where we talk to top authors and thinkers about how we can improve our lives. Today, we're here with Pamela Slim. She is the author of the new book, The Widest Net. Her past books include Escape from Cubicle Nation and Body of Work. And Pamela, we're so glad to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here.
Wonderful. We're going to be talking about finding new opportunities for your business and ways that we can actually grow what we're doing to be successful. And so I'm excited to dive into that. But Pamela, my first question for you, you wrote way back 15 years ago a book that one can call fairly prescient these days as we're experiencing the Great Resignation. And that is Escape from Cubicle Nation. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this great resignation phenomenon that so many people post-pandemic want to be somehow making changes in their professional lives. And how have the circumstances evolved since you were doing this in the mid 2000s?
Yeah, I was laughing the other morning thinking about how I have this blessing and a curse for seeing into the future sometimes before people can can understand what's happening. But the core factors that I saw back in 2007 and 8 when I was writing Escape from Cubicle Nation, it came out in 2009, is when you look at the kind of factors that make people feel connected to their work, a lot of them stay consistent. They want meaning and purpose. They want to be able to take care of themselves financially. But more and more, and I think especially with so many of the stresses that people feel with pressure everywhere from, family responsibilities, et cetera, people really want to have a life that doesn't feel completely stressed out. And so a lot of the factors that were moving people out in the work I did for about 10 years, helping people transition from corporate into entrepreneurship, the main thing I found for my clients were really about more of a connection with meaning and purpose, and also just agency and having time around their schedule. I think now we've had a lot of very intense views about the meaning of life, the preciousness of life, and I feel like the Great Resignation was that global zeitgeist of people saying, "Oh my gosh, like literally my life could end at any moment and I better make a really good decision now." So it's not the conditions that are leading up to it. I don't actually feel are any different from what I've seen actually over 25 years of doing this work.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. And of course, many people have said that it's not that the pandemic necessarily changed the situation, but it dramatically accelerated the trends that were
Yes.
already underway. So I'm seeing great folks tuning in here and saying hello. If you are tuning in, please feel free to type into the chat box and let us know who you are, where you're calling in from, and of course, your questions for Pam Slim. She is the author of a new book. It's called The Widest Net, and we're going to be talking about how to find new opportunities for your business. And in the spirit of over delivering, look at this. Anna says hello to you in Navajo, Pam. Wow,
Yat
well
e
done.
Anna. So nice. My husband is Navajo, for those who don't know. So it's so good to see you. What a precious joy to have you here. Nice to see you, Anna. Yat e
Wonderful.
Abinet.
Oh, super impressed with that. That's way to micro target, Anna. I love that. And we have great friends tuning in. Tori's here, David's here from Indianapolis, Nancy from the UK. We have Karen here. We have Laura from Sao Paulo. We have a LinkedIn friend from Lexington, Kentucky. We have Rachel from London, Tarana from Portland. Cheryl is here from Minneapolis. Rebecca from Chicago. Nina's here. We have another user of LinkedIn from London. We're so happy to have all of you. Welcome, and please feel free to type your questions into the chat box. It's wonderful to hang out with all of you. Now, Pam, speaking of live in Arizona, you have your wonderful Navajo husband. I know, and I believe you are actually tuning in from it right now. You have
Yes.
created this center in Phoenix related to small businesses, and I'm just a sneaking suspicion here. I'd love to hear how that impacted you writing The Widest Net and some of your thinking around this question of how businesses, especially small businesses, can find new opportunities. How does these factors swirl in for you?
It actually swirled where this opening this space was the result of doing the early research for the book. So I did a 23 city tour, which I called the Unbooked Tour, with a little wink to my friend Scott Stratton, who I think you know too, who wrote Unmarketing and Unselling. And my idea, this was back in 2015, is I knew that I had a model of building community. It was actually my degree in college. I've always built community online and in person. And I wanted to actually test the ideas with my readers and friends and colleagues across the country in places where I had already done book tours for my prior two books. So I had the general idea for the model that I took to 23 different cities and shared the ideas and got feedback, which was extremely helpful in building the foundation for the book. One question that I asked in every city from the very first one is, how many of you have ever seen a Native American business expert speaking as at a business conference on a business topic? And out of 23 cities, including many of the largest ones in the US, only 7 had. And 4 of those were in Vancouver, Canada. So when I came back, my husband and I talked about it, and we said, we want to create a space in our hometown of Mesa, Arizona, where we can really just highlight the leadership that exists, but is rarely seen, with Native, Black, Latinx, and other folks of color in our community. And that's what we did.
That is sensational. I love that, and certainly finding grassroots ways to empower more voices is a wonderful thing to be doing. So props to you for that, Pam. So I am curious as well. Diving into the questions that you raise in the widest net. So first of all, you can parse. I love the metaphor, but for those who may be unfamiliar with your work, it's hard to believe because Pam Slim has been blogging and doing wonderful work for close to 2 decades in the public sphere. But for those who are not familiar with what you do, maybe you can talk about what you mean by the widest net. And
Yeah.
specifically, I know that you focus a lot in it about the question of how do you identify your ideal customers? How do you even know who those folks are? And sometimes you allege they might be hiding in plain sight. So can you talk a little bit about those things?
Absolutely. So I consider myself an author practitioner. I don't just usually come up with an idea in the shower. I work with clients. It's really the heart of the work that I do. And in my work with business owners, I really figure out what are the things that are getting in the way of them making progress. Generally, the area I work in is growing businesses. So starting growing businesses, it's really where my heart and energy is, especially for people who are doing really transformational work. So really where the widest net came from, it is a trilogy in my books, which I didn't really realize until I wrote it. I saw the synergy, but if Escape from Cubicle Nation just helped people to leave into a viable business, body of work was really focused on what does somebody really want to create with deliberate intention, a lot of what you talk about in your book. And based on what somebody really wants to create, then how can they find an audience? And in general, my approach to audience building is more relational rather than transactional, which is another thing you talk about in your book, The Long Game. And so the widest net is really this idea that fundamentally, we often talk about building our business and looking for opportunities using the metaphor of an empire. So we talk about literally building an empire, drawing everybody into this, and sometimes just featuring ourselves as the sole expert in a space that provides all of the solutions to all the business problems. In my experience, as much as I really try to do a great job with my clients, I can never be the only person who provides all the solutions. So instead, in the widest net, we center our ideal customer, which is, as you were asking about, really described by a problem or challenge they may have. So for my clients, business owners who really have a great idea, they want to build their audience, they are already in an ecosystem where they are looking for advice, resources, tools, expertise in order to help them solve their problem. That's really what I call this widest net, is this ecosystem view of all of these different players. Once you take the time to do a strategic analysis about who is in that space, lately I've been using the Justice League metaphor. So if we said, if we have 30 seconds to save the world, like in the area that we work in, who would we assemble as the very best people to get that done? That is really the ecosystem of people that you have supporting your customers. So the net are all the others who provide services. And my premise in the book is if you simply begin to build relationships with, connect with others who are already serving your clients, it actually is more effective and you do a better job for your customers.
I love that, Pam. Thank you. We want to say hi to some of the great folks tuning in. We have a LinkedIn user from Sri Lanka. We have Joanne here from Oshawa, Ontario. We have YT from Singapore. We've got Belinda here. We have Denise here from Florida. Della from Indiana. We've got Chris from Ottawa. Elizabeth from Tennessee. Many, many more. We're so happy all of you are here. This again is a conversation with a wonderful Pamela Slim. You can find her at PamelaSlim.com. Her new book is The Widest Net. And we already see here Anna says, we have a different wonderful Anna joining us, already pre-ordered Pam Slim's new book. So you can buy it this second on Kindle. It is out on Kindle right now. It is coming out in November on audio and in paper. So you can purchase it and pre-order it there. And we are talking about finding ways to grow your business. Feel free to throw your questions into the chat box. So, Pam, one thing I wanted to explore, you were alluding to a past work of yours, body of work. And I think this is just interesting to draw out. I, too, have your syndrome, which is I wrote a trilogy that I didn't actually realize was going to be a trilogy. And then, oh, look, they all fit together. So I love that. So body of work is really about creating, sort of finding and creating the through line of what you do, as I understand it. Can you talk a little bit more about, how you do it and why this actually matters to us as entrepreneurs or as professionals?
Yeah, the heart of all great marketing, if anybody's to ask, like, what's the very best thing you could do to market your business? If I were to channel my friend Guy Kawasaki, he would say, create a great product. That there's nothing really that you could do better than making sure that what it is that you're creating is something that is worthwhile of attention and energy and marketing. And so in body of work, I define it in the book as everything that you create, contribute, affect, and impact throughout the course of your life. And so it is work that you create, things like books or programs, intellectual property, but it's also the nature of relationships that you create, the kind of impact and influence you might have on people and volunteer opportunities and so forth. And so what I find for a lot of people, I use the metaphor of ingredients. If you and I were cooking dinner together and we had a whole cupboard full of ingredients and we wanted to make some stew, we probably wouldn't dump all of the ingredients in the stew because it would taste pretty bad. And that's kind of what we do when we're marketing ourselves, either for a job, is we think we have to list every single ingredient to position ourselves for the next opportunity. Or if we're in business and we've done a variety of things in our business, then we need to tell people the entire story. And so there's this combination of finding out what is a through line. Are there certain core elements in your body of work that are themes that you can talk about as to really what can make sense for a body of work that for many people might cross over entrepreneurship, working as an employee, working for a nonprofit, but then also how can you make sure that that which you are creating is something that's really relevant? And so that's where when you get that focus, then you want to put it into the widest net method so you know systematically how you can really begin to build an overall system for connecting with people and sharing that idea and getting customers.
I love that. It really does fit together nicely. And we have a comment here from Annette who's chiming in. Annette says, wow, I would love to replicate your blueprint with local leadership. Your discovery and share is amazing. Looking forward to the
Mm.
widest net. That's amazing. I know Annette's in SoCal, so it's great. Maybe the ideas will be spreading far and wide. And CB is chiming in. She made a great point to what you were talking about with the escape with what you predicted, Pam, and Escape from Cubicle Nation. CB
Yeah.
says, yes, the great resignation is also being triggered by morality as related to social justice concerns. So good point
That is
there, CB.
absolutely right. There's one of my amazing friends and clients, Erica Hines, who is doing a research project right now called Black Women Thriving, really looking at what Black women in particular need in order to thrive in the workplace. And it has drawn such a clear picture of how most organizations are systematically not structured for the success and thriving of many people of color or otherwise marginalized folks. So I totally agree. I think that social reckoning has had a really strong impact, and even more reason why people are saying, I'd rather do it on my own.
Yeah, really good point. Now, Pam, one of the things that you talk about in the Widest Net is a concept that you call tiny marketing actions, or TMA. This is, of course, different than TMI, which we want to avoid in the workplace. But tell me about
Yes.
TMAs and why they are a good thing.
There may have been a little pun in there because I am sort of a dork, but when I thought of TMAs, I find for so many of my clients, and I find it for myself, that it is very overwhelming when you're looking at marketing your business to just look at it in terms of big tidal waves of marketing activity. So, having a huge launch for a book, you're just walking through it, I'm walking through it. Sometimes there's a program or some significant event that does require a lot more marketing energy and attention. But in general, when you look at breaking down these activities into really small bites that you can do in literally less than 5 minutes a day. And so it's everything from sometimes I'll pick up my phone when I have a minute, I'm waiting for something, coffee in line, and I might scroll through my text and say, "Oh, I haven't talked to Dorie in a minute. Let me just text and say hi. How you doing? Are you tired? From your book launch." To reaching out to a past colleague on LinkedIn and sending a little message. The key to making tiny marketing actions effective is where you have done the strategic analysis up front to think about what really are those best kind of connections to further my mission. And I was listening this morning on the way here to your book on Audible about the is it unlimited horizon? Is that the right term?
Yeah, infinite horizon networking. Yeah.
Infinite horizon. Okay, so infinite horizon networking, which I love so much, of just this idea of let's just pay attention and notice really cool, interesting people and connect with them without any like overall agenda of what it is that we need from the relationship. I feel like that is a core principle that absolutely impacts how it is that you begin to build really lots of opportunities and unanticipated opportunities. And at the same time, if you are looking strategically for this Justice League perspective of if you could speak at 2 events a year, what would those events be? If there are your perfect, what I call peanut butter and jelly partners, people who have highly complementary but non competitive services to you, who would those people be that we could develop a referral network with that can help focus the kinds of tiny marketing actions that you take?
Ah, I love that. I think that's really cool. And thank you for sharing that, Pam. Again, we're here with Pamela Slim. She's the author of the new book, The Widest Net. It's now available on Kindle. It's going to be available November 11th on
Yes.
Audible and as a actual book. And if you are enjoying these conversations, you can make sure you never miss one. Go to DorieClark.com. You can sign up there to get a free self-assessment and join my email list, and you will get reminders about these awesome sessions with guests like Pam. So Pam, we also wanted to greet some of the cool friends who are tuning in here. We want to say hi. We've got people from around the world. We have Tiago from Brazil, Timothy from Nigeria, Patrick from Germany, Becca from Kansas. We're so glad to have all of you friends and more. And please feel free to type your questions into the chat box for Pam Slim. We're eager to hear what's on your mind, and thank you for being here. Now,
And I
Pam,
have to say, tudo bem do Brasil. Eu falo português, então, meu brasileiro, tudo bem. I get to share two of my languages here. So maybe let's go for three. We'll see if there are any other languages that I can speak here from our
ooh,
participants.
over delivering. I love that. That's amazing. And let's see if I can do this right. Tarana says hello to my cat. How can I make sure? Oh, there we go. We have a cat cameo as well. That is an important
Oh, I love
component
it.
of any and all live stream activity. So, Pam, another question that I had for you. You talk in the Widest Net about the critical principles of having a mission, the four
Mm.
critical principles of a mission. Can you explain that for us? Why is that necessary, and how can we figure out what that is?
Yeah, I feel like I understandably the whole idea of a mission and values is often it sits in a place in our heart where we've sat through way too many corporate offsites or meetings where people just feel like that's just gobbledygook and let's just skip to the part where we can just begin to market our business. And I really want to rehabilitate our connection with it, because I feel like in my lens on work, and just going back to this definition of our body of work, if our body of work is everything that we create, contribute, affect, and impact throughout the course of our life, each one of you has really specific gifts, really specific areas in which you can influence what you want to influence in the world. And so your mission, when you're connecting the kind of work that you're doing with the kind of impact that for you is really personally meaningful and significant, and is something that there are other people who are, working on that issue, then that is something that's really going to make such a big difference in how you feel about your work, and also in just having this sense of contribution. It is, I'll be a little Debbie Downer here, but sort of with an up at the end, in that we really honestly can never guarantee that our legacy for the work that we're putting in our body of work is going to have any particular headline. That headline is actually outside of our control completely. I had my dad did work for about 40 years volunteering to rehabilitate a school in his very tiny little town in California, and he and other volunteers just spent decades doing the work. Toward the end of his life, there were just some dynamics that were happening in the community that sort of soured the relationship in some ways. And I watched my dad and listened to him say, how frustrating after all of this time, it feels like our work is lost. And what I had to tell him is, Dad, what matters is what I saw as your daughter about you showing up every day and doing the work. And that demonstrated to me that we need to be caring about others. We need to be really focused on mission. And so when you have that kind of connection and you realize that the only thing we can control is what it is that we contribute to the world, that's where you really need to define the mission. It has a very specific connection with then how you create your map for how you'll be connecting with other people that share that mission. So I see already in the chat, people are talking about other folks in addition to Erica Hines that would be good to connect with that are doing really powerful work. That's an example. When you look at folks who might be linked to creating more equity in the workplace, around that mission is where we start to form coalitions, collaborations, and opportunities to highlight each other's work.
Yeah, thank you. That's great, Pam. We wanted to say hi to some other wonderful folks tuning in. Daryl's here from Sacramento. Daniel is here from Colorado. Debbie from Maine. We've got Derek from Atlanta. Karen from Nova Scotia. We're so happy to have all of you here. This is great. And I wanted to inquire, Pam, for a lot of people who are looking to build a business, start an entrepreneurial venture, maybe a small business, oftentimes the push around how do you grow your business is the kind of gut reaction, or the advice that so many people would get is, buy advertising or hire a PR firm. Now, from what you've said, my assumption is that you would say, maybe that's not actually the right first move. But can you talk about some of the common narratives around how to grow a business or find new customers, and where we kind of get it wrong?
Yeah, discernment is probably the word of the choice that I have when making selections about different marketing vehicles, because at different times in your business for a different purpose, you can make really sound decisions. If you, for example, created a very powerful online class and you know that you want to be reaching a market and you can use some online advertising in order to reach them, that could be a good strategic method. Or you have a book coming out, you don't really have contacts with journalists, and it may make sense to hire somebody for PR. But in general, I think what a lot of people just immediately skip to is tactics over strategy. And that's one thing of really not being exactly clear who it is that you're trying to reach. And in particular, who are other people who have already spent lots of time and energy building an amazing audience in what I call a watering hole. So this is an example, right? That you and I are in this watering hole. Actually, you have the partner at Newsweek who are putting energy and investment into building a community that you can connect with. To me, it's so much easier if I'm coming and I'm visiting, right, your place. Some of my folks that I know from my community can join us here, but I can also meet people that are new to me. So when you go to places where people have already taken the time to organize a community it's a really, effective thing. The other thing, which is why I was literally pumping my fist in the air while listening to your book on my drive into the office, was that we do not take the requisite amount of time to have natural relationship building activities. And so that's where sometimes we just get kind of assaulted. As soon as you connect with somebody on LinkedIn, somebody immediately sends you a marketing message that shows they have no discernment or analysis about who you are or what you do. That's not the way that we make human relationships. So we need to reset the timeline for and expectations for what it means to build a business. In some businesses, there are effective ways that if you're just looking to make money and just be very niche and strategic, you can build a business quite quickly. And I've seen and helped people do it. Where you're really looking to develop expertise and build a body of work, that takes time. There are no shortcuts. And so that's really a resetting of expectations about what it takes to be positioned as an expert, which I know is something you talk about a lot in your course and in your prior books.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pam. I appreciate it, and I am always grateful since we are only 1 month out from launch for the kind plug for The Long Game, my new book.
Yes.
Very, very thoughtful of you. And speaking of new businesses and new business opportunities, Annette has one for you, Pam. She says, "Are you planning any community building retreats
Hmm.
so that we can learn to build ecosystems like you've done?" I don't do you offer that? If not, it sounds like you have a taker.
Oh, we absolutely will. And actually, we were set to have the biggest block party here. I have Main Street right behind me where our learning lab sits. We had plans for the book before Delta decided that she was going to visit us more deeply. But I cannot wait to be bringing folks in from other localities who want to learn about some of the economic development that's very inclusive we're doing here. I literally feel like it's some of the best in the country, if not the world. And so absolutely, when it's safe, we are going to be doing live events here, and I can't wait.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you, Pam. Well, Della had a question for you. She was curious. Do you have any specific tips regarding building an online community? In her case, she wants to know about women interested in buying and selling small businesses, but I think this could apply all over. How do you think about these concepts in the digital world?
It is actually the same. So the method that you think about for building community works whether you're doing it or online or in person. And I had in the first 10 years of my business, I started my blog Escape from Cubicle Nation in 2005. And I transitioned out of being a management consultant for 10 years in Silicon Valley. So I literally did not know anybody in this space. I was actually newer in entrepreneurship. I really arrived on the scene without any connections. And I got married and changed my name. So literally my name was my name was different. And so the approach that you take when you're looking for this audience, in your case for women who want to buy and sell businesses, is when you begin to define like what really is that bigger mission. So maybe it's, for additional income, or, women who are trying to really support the growth and expansion of women-owned businesses, whatever that mission is. You do that ecosystem analysis to figure out who are those ecosystem players, who is that Justice League of people who have deep connections and community built that are providing a complementary kind of perspective on the mission that you're also connected with. And so from that perspective, then you could do things like have a podcast, and podcasts are natural places in which you can be highlighting and having conversations with ecosystem partners. You can share content that would be useful to those other partners, which they're likely to share. And you can speak at events, now mostly virtual, that are made up of people who are actually connected to that mission. So the map and really the whole book, The Widest Net, is just a method, 10 different steps. Each chapter is one of the steps that really breaks it down in a clear method.
Love that. Thank you so much. We've been here talking with Pamela Slim. She's the author of the new book, The Widest Net. You can follow her, learn more, make sure you pre-order her book or get it on Kindle right now. You can learn more at PamelaSlim.com. If you want to make sure you never miss one of our conversations, you can follow me on LinkedIn and subscribe to my LinkedIn newsletter at DorieClark.com/LI, because we're here with Newsweek every week at the same time, 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific. Pam, we have time perhaps for one more question. And
Mhm.
inquiring minds want to know, Georgia loved your answer, but she says, wait, what are the 4 critical principles of building a mission? We
You're
can't leave without
you're gonna
finding
make
out.
me you're gonna make me have to look it up in the book. Do you know this, Dory? As soon as you write a book and when you're talking about it, you don't always remember every single piece.
Oh, I
So
know, my
you're
friend.
just gonna have
Can
to
you
follow
tell us
me on
one or
LinkedIn, Georgia, and I will post it because
can you
I
tell us
honestly
one or
don't
two?
remember.
What's the most important thing we need to know?
I mean, the most important thing is that it's a root of something that is a problem that you really care about, and it's a problem that people will pay money to solve if you're in business. So I know those are the part of the 2 steps, but any of you that are going to be an author, you will experience that. It is honestly like you don't always remember every single part of your book. So thank goodness for the follow-up on LinkedIn.
That is amazing. And you should all follow Pamela Slim on LinkedIn. This is a great opportunity to enjoy her wisdom, which I have been a fan of for many years. Pam, we're so glad to have you here. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for having me, Dory.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. It's been a wonderful conversation about finding new opportunities for your business with Pam Slim. We'll be back next week and take care.